Commission meeting. I will now ask Commissioner Newman to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brenda. Can we have roll call, please?
Chair Baldino,
Here.
Commissioner Keldorf,
Here.
Commissioner Newman,
Present.
or sorry, Vice Chair Newman, my apologies. Commissioners Wingate and Heschler are absent.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is consent calendar. There being nothing, that will bring us to written communications. We were given the emails that were received today. Was there anything else that was brought in or received?
No.
All right, so thank you for that. That brings us right to agenda item H1, new business. We're discussing a 3-unit condominium project at 335 Penn Street. And can we have a staff report, please?
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I am here to present the staff report for EA 1250, Subdivision 1901 and Adjustment 1901. The project is a proposed 3-unit condo subdivision with an adjustment request at 335 Penn Street. As this map shows, the project location is at 335 Penn Street. 335 Penn is within the multifamily residential zone, which allows multifamily dwellings and condominiums subject to the requirements of the Subdivision Map Act. As shown on this map, vehicle access can be taken either from Penn Street or the alley at the rear of the properties. Surrounding uses include multifamily units to the east, south, and west, and a private gated parking lot servicing Park Vista Senior Living immediately to the north. The image shown, this is the current site conditions at 335 Penn Street. The site is currently developed with a single-family residence with an attached garage that takes driveway access from Penn Street. All existing structures will be demolished and the site graded prior to construction. So the proposed development will incorporate 3 units that range between 1,943 square feet to 2,287 square feet. There will be 2 floors above grade with rooftop decks on the northern side of the property, standing no taller than 29 feet and 1 inch at its highest. This is lower than the allowed maximum for the height in the R3 zone. The maximum height allowed in the R3 zone is 32 feet. The R3 zone is required to provide 15-foot setbacks from the front property line, 4 feet on each side, and 10 feet from the rear property line. The development will provide 15 feet at the front, 6 to 8 feet at the southern property line, and 4 feet at the northern side property line, 11 feet from the rear. The structure has a 52% lot coverage, which is less than the maximum allowed 53% lot coverage as allowed in the ESMC. All parking for the proposed development will be provided on site. 2 units will be constructed over subterranean 2-car garages, and the 3rd unit will have an at-grade garage accessible from the rear alley. 1 guest spot will be provided below grade adjacent to one of the garages. And with the removal of the existing curb cut on Penn Street, we will be gaining 1 additional street parking spot along Penn. So the application includes a request to reduce the interior width of 1 2-car garage by 6 inches to allow space to provide stairs for access to the unit, which is this first, number 1 adjustment, and the second adjustment to allow construction of an 11-foot, 1-inch wide driveway, which will begin 11 feet from the rear property line. The red circle with number 1 shown here provides the location of the adjustment for the garage width, and the red circle with number 2 provides the location of the adjustment for number 2. The El Segundo Municipal Code requires a garage that has the interior dimensions of 20 feet by 20 feet, or space for 2 cars with enough room to open both their doors. Due to the encroaching staircase that provides additional access to the second unit on the northern side of this garage, the proposed garage for Unit B is 6 inches narrower than the municipal code requires. However, this garage is also 1 foot 9 inches deeper than is required and offers additional storage to the residents underneath the staircase. Shown here in green, we have a visual representation of the garage dimensions as provided in the municipal code. And shown in pink, we have a representation of the garage dimensions as proposed with the approval of the adjustment. The El Segundo Municipal Code requires that drive aisles be a minimum of 12 feet when the aisle is one way. The proposed site is hindered by an 11-inch existing retaining wall that is to remain on the south side of the property. This retaining wall, highlighted in yellow, prevents the applicant from being able to provide the full 12-foot width of the driveway for the entirety of the site. As shown in green, the driveway will provide 11 feet of 12-foot wide driveway. After this 11-foot rear setback, the driveway will narrow to 11 feet 1 inch. This distance is approximately 17 feet from the rear setback and 24 feet from the rear alley. So the application also includes a subdivision request to create 3 airspace condominium units on the existing parcel. Pursuant to Government Code Section 66498.1b and El Segundo Municipal Code Section 1423, the approval of a vesting tentative map confers a vested right to proceed with development in compliance with the city's ordinances in effect at the date the city determines the application to be complete. The multifamily zone permits condominium development, and residents would have exclusive use of their personal units and garage with a percentage ownership of the common areas and project amenities. An HOA and CC&Rs will be required. Staff believes that we have made the findings for approval of the subdivision as the map and design are consistent with the applicable general and specific plans. The site is physically suitable for the type and density of development, and the design is not likely to cause substantial environmental damage or injure fish or wildlife or their habitat. It is unlikely to cause public health problems and will not conflict with easements on the property. Staff also believes that they have made findings for the approval of the adjustment. The proposed adjustment is appropriate for the neighborhood where the property is located. It is necessary for residents of the condominium complex to fully enjoy and use their property. And the proposed adjustment is consistent with the intent of ESMC Title 15, as it will serve the general welfare of the city by adding an additional 3 units, and they are consistent with the density, height, and parking standards of the R3 zone. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the facts as contained within this report and adopt resolution number 2862, approving environmental assessment number 1250, adjustment number 1901, and subdivision 1901, vesting tentative parcel map 82473. And before you open communications, I just wanted to let you know that the resolution in front of you, I did find a few typos within that original resolution that was sent out. They have been corrected, and this is the new document. The substance of the document hasn't changed. It was changing a few numbers that were incorrect. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
For staff, are there any other examples in the city that you know of where there's been a similar adjustment granted?
Yes. Actually, I have...
There's one on California.
So we will not be setting precedent with this project. Other projects include 129 Palm Avenue, which was done in 2017, 231 Virginia, also done in 2017, 224 Whiting Street, 2017 as well, 711 Main Street, which was done 2013, and 202 Whiting Street, which was 2016. So
Are the lot sizes very similar, or is it the actual lot size is similar to for 3 townhomes?
They are
Everything
very
else is
similar.
Okay.
They are also, let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 of them include an adjustment for parking as well as the subdivision. 2 of them, I believe, were done by the same developer, which is very similar with the 6-inch difference in the garage.
I think there was one in
Did
a
I-
single-family home, too, as well, around the corner from where I live. Because I remember I had to recuse myself.
Okay. I may have
But again,
missed-
that's just for the changing of the size of the garage
Right,
and the driveway.
and the drive out.
Right. Because as far as the land, it's an R3 zone, correct?
Correct.
And R3 is designed to have multifamily townhome constructed on it.
Correct.
And the height of this is within the requirements of the code for R3, correct?
Correct.
And the parking satisfies what the city's requirements are for parking?
Correct, with 2 additional spots being offered.
Right, because we have a guest spot subterranean, and then by removing that driveway on Penn, there's another street parking being added. So
That
we're
is
actually
correct.
adding 2 spots that aren't there now.
Mhm.
And the only thing we're being asked to talk about is the variance of the the size of one subterranean garage for, looks like unit number 2, and making the driveway from 12 to like 11 inches because of an existing retaining wall that can't be moved.
Correct.
All right. Any questions?
The new parking stall, that's not assigned to the complex, right? It's just street parking, or it is assigned to
So there's 2 different ones. I'll go back to this slide.
where the curb cut used to be, and then they gain a,
So the street parking is available for anyone to park in the street. Let me get my laser pointer, one moment. So this area right over here is currently a driveway. So that will be paved over as a condition with our Public Works Department, and that will be a parking spot that is made available to the public. The subterranean parking spot will be available for guests of the condo complex, and that will be right in this area here. We have 1 garage here, 1 here, and a 3rd here.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's a silly question for as long as I've been on the planning commission, that these kinds of things come before us for these particular adjustments. If a developer would have not asked for a matter of inches and just perhaps made the living area smaller, it would have probably been something that you could actually do over the counter. Is that right?
So traditionally, or sorry, not traditionally,
You probably would have had to subdivide it
Yeah,
because you were creating basically an HOA. So right
It
now it's
still would
one
have to
lot.
come-
it would have to come to us just to subdivide it.
Yeah,
but
not
they wouldn't
asking
ask for any
For
variance.
the variances based on a
Right.
matter of inches, though.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to approve the subdivision of the lot from one piece of property, basically 3,
three,
and
yeah.
have an HOA and CCNRs like we do all the townhomes
Right.
we have.
Is there been any study about the adequacy of a narrower driveway and a narrower garage? Obviously, that particular garage, your example, it's a little bit longer, so, technically your square footage is probably pencils out to be the same.
It's actually a bit extra because there's additional on the front end and on the back end.
Yeah,
The driveway width is 11 feet. It's a one-way driveway. That's more than enough for one-way traffic in either direction. Actually, in many cities, we'll have a standard of 10 feet as their standard. So we have no concerns about that.
okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, we'll open public communications. All right, we'll open public communications. The first right will go to the applicant. If the applicant wants to say anything, please step forward.
I'm Craig Maples, CAM Development Corp., and I'm a co-developer and designer of the project. One thing with the narrower driveway, the turnaround space between the 2 garages and the basement, minimum is 25 feet. We have 28 feet, which will easily allow turnaround and easy access to the driveway. And like he said, most cities are at 10 foot. In fact, in El Segundo for single family is 10 foot. One of the properties directly across the street that has 6 units on it, on an identical size lot, has a 9-foot driveway. And on this block, there are, on the same size lot, 4 6-unit projects, 4 4-unit projects, 2 or 3 other duplex or triplexes. There's only 1 other single family on the block. And almost all of them have driveway or access from the Penn Street, which the current code for R3, you cannot access an R3 property from the street. It has to come off the alley, which is what we're doing. So we are creating that spot. And in our CC&Rs that are required for the condo subdivision, it mandates that the occupants of the properties keep the garages clear for parking vehicles. And it's in their CC&Rs that they sign and get recorded. So in terms of using the garages, it's supposed to force them into doing that. So I think the parking issue is it's better, way better than the current situation right now. And I guess that was all I wanted to add.
Mr. Maples, can you just inform us, how many homes or projects have you done in El Segundo over the years?
I've done, I think, 5 or 6 other condo developments and probably 20 to 30 single families and a bunch of remodels.
And so you're used to the requirements the city puts on for active construction as far as minimizing dust and noise and dirt?
Yeah, we know, we understand it's very difficult to live next to a construction project. We've got 2 currently right now, and we try to keep the street swept and the neighbors informed, and our guys are very polite, and there, there's no smoking, there's no loud radios. One of our projects we just completed, the gal had to sleep after 3 o'clock, so I made sure there was no loud talking or music after 3 o'clock in that area where her unit was. And, we do our best to try to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. We understand it's disruptive. It's kind of goes with the territory, but we try to be very polite about it all. And our phone number's on the job. We're on the job. Our employees are on the job every day. So somebody's there from CAM representing the job.
What would
almost
be your
every day.
projected build-out time?
12 to 15 months. So it's, the initial part's probably the worst, the demo grading and framing. After that, it's all pretty inside. And that would take probably about 2 to 3 months.
And you said you would have a phone number posted at the job site if anyone
Yeah, our
had
signs
concerns?
are on there, and, construction rules and stuff that we post with our subcontractors. We use almost all the same subcontractors that are used to the way that we work in, most of the beach cities. So we do our best, but, we understand it's difficult. It's not easy.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else wishing to address the commission? Now's your time to step up. Just tell us your name, where you live.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Woodson. I actually live in 331 right next door. I am an attorney. I'm not a development attorney or construction attorney. I would definitely encourage all of you to go to the site yourself. I know this seems like a protocol where, the developer has done certain deals, and, if you see the site for yourself, you will see how crowded. It's very tight. I actually live in a door that's literally, and I'm one of the people that sent the email, because the gate to where they're building the subterranean parking is inches away. It's so close. So literally we could not live there. It's, I have asthma. My daughter was hospitalized with pneumonia. I mentioned that. And not only me, all of the neighbors, when we hear even the lawnmower or smoking, we all get it. The entire, it's very, very tight. There's hardly any parking as it is. I actually have parking in the back. One of my neighbors has parking in the front. We can barely get out. It's very tight. I encourage everyone to go look at it. I think that, I understand that it's zoned for that. I said I was a lawyer. I get that. I think that there needs to be some type of concession made, at least to accommodate the people in the building. If you guys would look at, or the developer, come over and really walk down the side where everything's going to be built, and maybe something can be worked out. I understand, I don't want to hold up progress. I understand that it's zoned. It will be extremely detrimental to the residents of 331, So that is what I came to share. I actually showed pictures, and like I say, my door is right there. I won't be able to stay. We just wouldn't. I'm sure, and I don't know, they probably get, dust. Even if he says there's minimal dust, there's going to be so many things, bugs, mold coming up. And it's already like that when they lawn the grass or mow the grass. What is it? Use the lawnmower. Mm-hmm. So imagine digging in and going under. It's really going to be detrimental to all of the residents. So I'm really here to speak on behalf of everyone.
Can I ask you, I did receive the email and the photographs, thank you for that. That fence that's right outside your door, is that your fence, or is that the fence for the property that's being redeveloped?
And that's the fence for the property being redeveloped.
Okay.
And again, and the reason I say encourage you to see it, if you walk down that it's so tight. And again, I'm not trying to hold up progress. I understand the zone. You need to look at it. It's just not feasible, I think something should be worked out,
Right, but it may be tight because your property is beyond the setbacks that are currently being applied to new construction. Does that make sense?
Okay.
If it was an older unit and you're too close to that property line, now we have setbacks to try to make these properties further apart to give that kind of space. And your building may be so old that
they went over, or
that it's called legally non-conforming. We
Okay.
can't make you change that now, but if you build something today, we have stricter standards to try to address exactly these concerns. We can't do anything to your property because it's already built, people are living in there, and it's like the 9-foot driveways. We don't want those anymore, but there's still some out there.
So what do you do though? So in other words, if my door is here and there's like, you know, plaster or whatever, and I just can't get out, I mean, is it just, oh well? I mean, you know.
Well, you'll still be able to leave your house. They're not going to encroach upon your property. They would be bound by that fence. I'm sure that fence will be torn down. There'll be a construction fence that'll be put up there, and then a permanent fence after that.
Okay, well, again, I mean, I wouldn't be able to say, I highly encourage everyone to look at it. You know, me and my 11-year-old daughter, we've been in the community for years. I know my neighbors have been in the community for years. It's not just me, it's extremely tight. The parking, I can never get out as it is in that back alley. It's, you know, it is so detrimental. And you know, again, I'll open the floor for everyone else, but I do encourage you to look at it, and I hope that there's another option offered for everyone. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Nicolette. I live next door in the 331 building. I'd like to just read what I wrote because that way I won't leave anything out. My first question is, I wanted to find out the difference between the designated land use, which I saw online was single-family residence, as opposed to multiple units for the R3 that you're referring to, but you can explain that afterwards.
It's an R3 lot.
It's an R3.
Yeah, that whole area. And
in-
if you can go to the slide that you had, the very first one that kind of gave us the overview. There you go. Oh. So kind of those gray ones that has all those buildings, that lot's in an R3 multifamily zone.
So why does it say online when it last sold that it was a single-family?
Because that's what's
residence?
built there.
Sorry?
There's a single-family home there. So when they bought it, they bought a single-family home. If you
So-
went to Zillow or something, that's what's going to tell you.
So it was a designated single-family use, and now it's not? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's designated as an R3 zone,
Oh, okay,
multifamily.
because it said online it was single-family residence when it last sold. My most immediate concern, like Kelly, is parking, of which there's extreme shortage, both on the 300 block of Penn, the 600 block of Holly, as well as the blocks of Sierra and Sheldon parallel to Penn. There are only 26 parking spaces on Penn and 15 on Holly. Those of us who live on or around the 300 block of Penn Street already struggle to find parking and are often having to block our own driveways. Caregivers to the residents in the retirement complex on Holly also struggle to find parking. I just spoke to one of them the other day, and he said he's going to have to switch his car with his housekeeper that comes daily to find space for her. The new structure, as explained, will only provide 6 parking spaces for the occupants and 1 guest spot. And you're saying 1 on the street, but I don't really think that should be counted since there's really a shortage. A 4-bedroom condo with no occupancy limit, as it would explain to me, there's no occupancy limit, could easily accommodate 5 people, probably more, since there are going to be 4 bathrooms. Each person with their own car, or often 2 cars, since these are going to be luxury condos. A lot of people have 2 cars, may even have large cars like Humvees. So we're looking at a total of at least 15 cars and probably many more, that including their visitors. On Wednesday nights and Thursday mornings, the parking situation is even more critical because of street sweeping. And when events are going on in the rec park, parking is not available there either. Where are all the workers and the construction vehicles going to park for a year or however long this takes? Secondly, the back alley where the garage access is proposed is an extremely narrow cul-de-sac. It's accessed by the alley running between Sheldon and Penn, which is only wide enough for 1 car at a time and has no sidewalks. Both alleys are extremely narrow and uneven and cannot accommodate more vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Even when one is walking there and a regular-sized car drives through, one is forced to stop and stand as far to the side as possible. When I have a dog, I know I have to escort her to the side just so we don't get brushed by the car coming through. This is not going to accommodate an additional 15-plus cars, service vehicles servicing the building after completion of the project, and construction vehicles during the construction period. Secondly, there are already 12 residences on the alley whose parking spaces are established on the alley. This is their immediate access to their residences, and therefore they are busy with parking their cars, unloading their groceries, supervising their children and pets. Additional traffic will be a hazard for emergency vehicles and residents. There's a lot of emergency vehicles that come down Penn to service the retirement village, and they come barreling down. That's on Penn, but the alley is going to have even more of a problem. I also believe a large building in this spot will ruin the character of this particular pocket of remaining small houses that border directly on the rolling green lawn of the rec park. The proposed building will be over 29 feet, 116 feet long, and 32 feet wide. And in my estimate, that will be the biggest building directly touching the rec park. The property corner meets the park in the back alley. That's where it touches the rec park. Does El Segundo want the image of the rec park to be that of tall, blocky condos surrounding the park like all the other cities? Or do we want to retain the feel of a village where the rec park is the central village green, surrounded by trees and single-family residences? If this building is allowed, the adjacent residences will soon be tall blocks too. It will block the view of the rec park for many residents, and even though there's no ordinance on obstructing views, I believe this is unfair, short-sighted, and sets a precedence for other buildings to do the same. On a personal note, like Kelly, the building I live in will be devastatingly changed by this proposed building, which will block all our light, all our cross-ventilation, and our entire view on this side. It will be longer than and almost twice the height of our building, and suffocatingly close. I'm wondering what provisions will be made for us residents whose lives are going to be horribly impacted by the construction noise, dirt, dust, and traffic from 7 a.m., I was told, 6 days a week. Many residents work from home, and our work will be impacted. As recording artists, I'll not be able to record during these hours, and many residents have allergies and sensitivity to dust and mold. Is it possible for the construction days to be limited to 5 days a week and a later start? Additionally, these will be luxury condos, and I don't believe El Segundo needs more luxury housing. There's a shortage of affordable housing, not luxury housing. Too many people who lived or worked in El Segundo have already been forced out by this buy and flip market. Is the city catering to the Silicon Beach population, or does it value the unique character that the existing residents, businesses, and historic houses have brought to our village? There's no other self-contained village like El Segundo in Los Angeles. I believe we should be maintaining the integrity of the existing village and not becoming another mundane, high-density city void of character and space to breathe. And I did include photos, which I don't know if you received, but in my estimate, looking directly across from the far side of the rec park onto where the building will be, it's going to be very, very big. And I included a drawing of my estimate because our building I measured is 15 feet up to our lower window, and this is going to be almost 30 feet. And then I included some pictures of the parking shortage on Penn Street, as well as Holly. There's a lot of red painted area where you can't park. There's a handicap area on Holly that's also not being able to be used. And I included a picture of the proposed building next to 331 Penn Street, showing how it's going to completely dwarf the existing building. And I don't believe our building is over the allotted size, because it's about 5 feet from where the property line probably is. Then I included a picture of the back alley cul-de-sac, which is very narrow, and I showed one picture of a car coming through, and only one car can come through at a time, and that's a regular size car. I also included some pictures of maps just showing where these existing streets are, where you can see the widths of the streets and the alley. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We did get all of your photographs and your email as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Maples, can I ask you a question about that fence on the property, if you wouldn't mind stepping up again? You may not know, how tall is that fence that's existing between the 331 and 335? That's on your property now, correct?
Most of it is. It kind of jogs a little bit on both, but most of it is on the 335 side.
It seems to be in disrepair. Is that going to be replaced?
Yeah, there's a slight little planter wall in the front that retains about 2 foot of the 331 property that's fallen apart, and the wood fence is also fallen apart. So we intend on, putting new walls and fencing in along that side. And like that shows, our setbacks on that side are mostly 8 feet all the way down. Those two little pop-outs are 6 feet, the front 6 feet, and the back's 12 feet. So we're quite a ways off of that south setback.
That's your driveway
Four-
there, right?
Yeah, 4 foot's the minimum, so we're quite a ways back. And that line up below there where it says site plan, that's the building next door. Well, actually, that one's not. It's a little bit below that. And their setback on that side is close to 4 feet. It might be more like 3.5 feet, but there is a 3.5 foot to 4 foot setback on the building on 331. And like you said, we're not going to encroach on that property at all. So
Okay, but you are going to replace that dilapidated
yes,
fence?
yes.
Okay.
And the other two garages on the property are also oversized. And they all have extra storage beyond the parking area. So we really try to design these so the garages are functional, because we know I live on Sierra around the corner and parking stuff. And we really try to design these so that parking can, the garages are usable. And it's a big part of how we try to design stuff. It's a big,
Yeah,
big
we
garage.
have seen a lot of plans with tandem, parking where it's 2 in, and we just know that that spot's going to be storage and it's really one parking
Right.
spot. So I'm glad not to see any tandem parking here, because we really want people parking in their garages, not using it for storage or a home studio or whatever you have there.
Yeah, and even this one that we were asking for, the 6-inch concession, it's only where the stairway is. In front of the stairway, there's about a 8 or 9 foot by 4 foot area for storage.
Right.
So up in front of the door there, that's all storage. And under the stairs will be additional storage. So, and the reason, when you had suggested that to make the living space smaller, the problem we're having is not the living space. The living space is above it. It's the parking. El Segundo has probably the widest requirement for garages in the South Bay. Everybody else is 18 or 19 feet inside. And this lot, all of the lots on that block are 40 feet wide. They're all identical sized lots. And like I said, there's a bunch of 4 and 6 unit developments on there. 2 new 4-unit ones that are on the end of the street by the alley to the south. And you couldn't be able to do it with the current parking standards the way they are. So to get a stairway and the retaining wall at the property and the driveway width, it maxes it out. So that's why we
Yeah.
need a little bit of concession on the width.
Thank you for that. Can you address the construction hours? That's number one. And secondly, just given the nature, the location of being so close to the building 331, is there, typically what do you do to help keep that area in 335 that you'll be working on as clean an area as possible?
Well, once we get scaffold, which is after the framing's mostly complete, we put a net up that keeps the dust from the project, or helps keep the dust from the project from going that way. And they're to the south. The wind primarily is coming from the west or the southwest, so, which there's nothing but a parking lot to the south. It's an open end on that one side. And also, the roof decks are designed to face the park away from the other buildings and everything, so we really tried to keep the area in mind in designing it, and not just to build a great big thing. And like I said, there's some much bigger property directly across the street, the 6-unit project that's way taller than us. You couldn't build that with current codes, even with a 32-foot height. They're way above that. And so we tried to keep it, we're smaller than what's.
How high is the screening or the
It goes up 2.5 stories all the way, because we stucco all the way up. And on that side, like I said, we've got.
the netting that you're going to
Yeah,
that would help?
It's on the scaffolding, which is about 3 foot off of the building, and the netting goes down all the way to the bottom. High winds, we have to roll it up because it'll blow the scaffolding around, but so that helps with the dust.
And what about construction hours?
In El Segundo, it's 7 to 6, Monday through Saturday. No construction noise on Sundays or national holidays.
And
that's
you'll just be
consistent with a lot of
adhering to that,
cities.
yeah.
Some are different, but
Do you see 6 days a week construction, just to work through it and get it?
normally guys are there from about 7 to about 4:30. And if they work Saturday, it's normally, into the afternoon. They normally don't work too late, and normally don't start at 7. They might start a little bit later on Saturday, but, it can happen, and it's, like I said, we try to keep the radio noise down, the yelling down, our guys are on site all the time, but, we do the best we can.
You'll be there, or you have project manager for this particular project?
Both. Right now, I have an office trailer, so I try to be on the jobs that are at this stage. And right now, we're building a project on Palm that trailer's at. Once that's done, I'll move that to there. So I will be there most of the time.
In the next couple of months, or?
Probably about 3 or 4 months, yeah, maybe four months. You can't be there while we're doing the demo and the grading and the shoring because there's no room.
Okay.
But all of the lots on that block are that same size. And like I
Yeah.
said, there's some big buildings on there compared to ours.
All right.
And on construction staging, especially in those early phases, where do you anticipate parking? Is there any access to that adjacent parking lot?
No, that's
You
fenced
guys?
off for the senior living home. There is a gate out the back that gets to Rec Park. So I imagine a lot of the guys will be parking maybe at the Rec Park parking lot. And like I said, we're only there during work hours. So that's not there overnight. It doesn't impact the parking at night. When people are coming home from work, we're gone. And staging's all on site. We normally, with rare occasions, have to block the street or the area in front unless we're working on the curbs or gutters or getting material delivered. But once it's delivered, we move it on site that same day. So it's, we've been doing
Fairly
it.
contained on the property.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow some people are allowed to leave a dumpster out there through the whole project. We never do that. We put everything on site. So try to make it a little better for we know it's hard on the neighbors. It's tough. I understand.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to make any public comments? Sure. Just step up, tell us where you live and your name.
Yeah, my name is William Kroll. I've lived in El Segundo for about 16 years now. I moved down here from Hollywood. I just really beg you to go and view this site, where we live. I live with my wife, Nicolette, at 331 Penn Street, and I really walk over to the park, walk into the cul-de-sac there where all the kids play, and imagine this monolith being just plopped down there. I mean, does it have to be 3 families? And the parking, I don't care what anybody says, it is a problem now, and it is going to get worse. Because like my wife explained, there's going to be visitors there. There might be more than 2 people in the condo that have a car. So we're just trying to keep it, as she said, like a little community, because you put this big block in there and everything changes. We'll have no more light. We'll have no more view. We'll have no more airflow through the apartment. So I just ask that you take a look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Lyle Mall. I'm the co-developer on the project and have built a number of other projects here in the city as well. I just want to make a point. Our structure will be the 3rd smallest structure on that block. And it'll also be the only property there where it's mandated in the CC&Rs that you have to use your garage. And we have on-site parking where I've walked the area, as Craig and I always do when we get ready to do a project. And there's a number of people on that block where their garages are storage areas and the parking is on the street. In fact, the tenants that we evicted from there had 4 cars and the garage was full of stuff. They parked 2 in the driveway and 2 on the street. So we're going to alleviate that problem as well. And so we're very sensitive when we come in and develop, because a lot of times we move into areas where we are the largest structure, which this area is different. We're very sensitive to the parking problems. And that's why when we also put a provision in there, we sell to owners that have to live there. We don't sell to owners then that rent it out where you could have 4 or 5 or 6 different kids in there. It's a family that'll move in, or a husband and wife. And so there'll generally be 2 cars. There'll be a working couple. And so they'll park in the garage. When they have guests, yes, there'll be people over and they'll be parking on the street or parking there or on the driveway in the back of the property, because we have 2 parking spaces there. So I'm assuming that unit will let their guests park on the back of their driveway. So there's really only 2 units and there's 1 guest parking spot. So the talk about parking, I think, is being overstated, because we're very sensitive to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, come on up. You want to say something else? If you have another comment, this is your time to speak, so you're welcome to speak.
I just wanted to slightly disagree because if each condo has 4 bedrooms and I believe 2 of them have 4 bathrooms, it's not going to be a husband and wife and a child. You're probably going to have a few, maybe a couple of roommates. There's going to be at least 5 people in each. That's 15 people, 15 cars. You're providing 7 spaces, so you're already short of 8. If there are more people, each with 2 cars, then we're short of, there could be 30 cars and you're providing 7, so then you're short of 23 spaces. So I really don't think this is going to be a small husband and wife and a child living in such a big luxury condo. I just think the calculation is not accurate. And if there's such a sensitivity to parking, then why is such a large structure being built? Why can't we have a smaller house there? Is it just money? I suppose that's what it is. Thank you.
Can I ask one follow-up question to the developer?
Sure.
So these are for sale, not rental. Is there anything in the CCNRs that limits the ability to rent? Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You'll have to come up to the microphone because we do have a large home viewing audience and they can't hear you if you're not speaking in the microphone.
Okay, thank you. Yes, in our CCNRs, they're for sale to owners, not groups of people, excuse me. So, and we've built there, it'll be a family that moves in. They may have kids. The kids may get older, and as they're teenagers, they may get cars. But there won't be like a college dormitory with 2 drivers per room. That's not in the CNRs. Can't be done. It'll be a family, and they can't, no rentals. So the parking by nature will be very limited.
Is there an HOA?
Yeah, there is an HOA as well.
Do you have an idea of what that monthly HOA would be?
Yeah, typically they now run about $260 a month, and what the city is currently doing is that includes their water bill. Starting, I think, a year or 2 ago, you guys have added water to that, which is about $90 of it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Hi, I'd like to know what's going to be done to follow up. I mean, she prepared a lot of information and sent it. Are you guys going to investigate? I'm just wondering, is it?
We're going to decide tonight.
Oh, really? You're gonna
This is
decide
the time
tonight?
for the hearing.
Oh,
We've been
wow.
given all the information.
Okay.
We have a
So
public
even
hearing.
has anybody seen the site? Has a specialist?
I've been to the site, yeah.
Okay. And
We'll
you've
get
been-
to that when we make our comments.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else come up, I'll close public communication and further comments shall come from the dais. Who would like to start?
Well, I will. I'm being born and raised very, very sensitive to this community that we live in, and to the village, and to keeping it small and intimate, and to that, I can also see if I owned a property or invested and purchased a property, to developing it in a very thoughtful manner. And I think that what's been presented to us here, while I am absolutely compassionate about the concerns of the neighbors, I think that the concerns are temporary. I really do. I think that during construction, they're going to do the best they can. They've got phone numbers, they've got communication with the city. There are people that you can speak to should something really occur that's completely devastating short of what's actually happening. And I can, when you live here and you live next to something and all of a sudden there's this massive change that's about to happen, it doesn't give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. And I understand that, I really do. The property's zoned for it. I think the developers are doing a thoughtful job. I know it's going to be attractive. They're going to eliminate more of the traffic off of the major frontage road by entering the driveway through the alley, which is, personally, I think it's a very important feature. They're going to have adequate parking. Short of nothing happening, which is probably what you'd like to have happen, I'm at this point, I'm in favor of the project. I mean, there isn't anything short of what the city allows anyway. I'm in favor of the few inches and allowing that to happen. How do you feel?
Yep, I agree with the majority of what and how you articulated it. I do want to say I did go by the site. I've been by the property. I've actually logged a lot of hours at the roller rink in Rec Park, so I understand what that looks like from the park view. You know, I feel like there's room for improvement on a lot of those buildings that exist that are actually fronting onto the park. I think what you said, certainly in the short term, I understand we've had construction on either side of us. There's a large dumpster parked on Bungalow that we have to navigate past every day. It's annoying. It definitely is. It's frustrating, and I have compassion for that. But I think that once you get through that phase of construction, I would also encourage you to go see some of the other properties that they've developed so that you can see a visual that might not be as daunting as what 29, 30 feet sounds like. And at this point, I am, definitely inclined to approve the project as is. I think there's a precedent in the city for the 2 adjustments. And beyond that, there's everything else in the zone is being adhered to.
I think that's exactly right. Really, what's before us is the driveway issue of 11 feet and the one garage not being 12 feet, but actually having more room than what the code requires. The subdivision, the building of townhomes, the height, the parking, all meets what the city requires for development in an R3 zone, which is what this is. With respect to construction, if you can't work it out with CAM Construction, come let us know. That's why we're here. And then we can try to help resolve whatever issues happen. But the reason I mentioned that CAM Construction has done many projects here is because they know how to work within El Segundo, and they're a part of El Segundo. It's not because they have any inside deals, but they are accustomed to working with neighbors and getting through the construction process, which isn't fun for anyone. But it is a high quality product that they build, and there is a housing shortage here. So if we can replace a dilapidated single family home with 3 townhomes, we're going to have to do that. And I think it's going to be a good thing to do in the long run. So I appreciate the input and the emails and the photographs. But if the question is, should we make an adjustment for the driveway and the garage? And should we subdivide this R3 into 3 townhomes? The answer is going to be yes. So I'm also in agreement that the project go forward. And I think it's going to be a nice addition to that neighborhood. And I have been to the site. I'm going to the roller rink later today. I've been to the site to look at it, and that's why I thought that building 331 looked a little bit closer to the property line than it probably should be under today's standards. But that being said, I don't see how this commission, based on the information we have and staff's reports and recommendations, does anything but approve this. So unless there's further comments or any questions, I'll accept the motion.
I'll move to approve environmental assessment number EA 1250, adjustment 1901 for an 11-foot 1-inch driveway width and a 19-foot 6-inch interior garage dimension, and subdivision number 1901 for vesting tentative parcel map number 82473 to allow construction of a 3-unit multifamily residential building and to subdivide a property into condominium airspace units within the multifamily R3 zone located at 335 Penn Street.
I'll second that. So, all in favor?
Aye.
3-0. It passes. Thank you, everyone.
And the records should reflect that that's a final decision by the Planning Commission that's subject to appeal within 10 days.
Thank you. And then, does this go to City Council as well? Final
No,
decision of
final
Planning
decision
Commission.
unless it's appealed.
Listen to what you said. All right. That brings us to continued business, none. Now, is there a report from Planning and Building Safety Director or designee?
Yeah, a brief one. Carol's not here tonight, but I wanted to congratulate her and thank her for volunteering to serve another 4 years with the Planning Commission. And I also want to report real quick, earlier this week, the council held a strategic planning session that we do every year. And I wanted to highlight that two of the items that the council prioritized for this year is to study areas and look for opportunities to add more housing. I think kind of goes in line with what the Planning Commission have been thinking and studying, so that's good. And also, they want to also look for ways to attract senior living. So I think it was of the 8-9 things that's in the priority of council. I think the planning department and planning commission will be busy this year. Thank you.
I'm sure they haven't read, but did the city council get a presentation on the subcommittee's report about high-density housing? I'm thinking about how the information you guys put together about how the demographics have changed, and we have a lot older residents now.
They have not received that presentation as yet.
Okay.
I've had some preliminary meetings with several other departments, including police, fire, and public works. And I wanted to wrap in some of the impacts to city services and departments along with that presentation. So we're working on that, and probably we'll go to council in either July or August.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Planning Commissioner comments?
None for me.
Mr. King, I want to follow up with you on the last meeting where I had the request about the attorney who committed the misdemeanor. What's the status on that, if any?
So no update, but I'm happy to talk to you offline about that. So
Very
probably
well
better
said.
out of a public meeting on that.
And then what's the status? I know we're getting emails about short-term Airbnbs. When are we, that's still coming back to this commission, correct?
Yes, that will be coming back. I'm sorry, I don't have my calendar, and we've been moving things
Okay.
around lately, but within the next 2 months.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I thought it was coming back at the next meeting or the meeting after that. So it should be on the one of the next 2 agendas.
Okay, great. All right. Oh, you thought the Airbnb was tonight? Yep. Oh, see, good thing I asked the question. Okay, so second and fourth Thursday of every month. But if you wanna leave an email, I can ask staff to email you guys when that does happen. That way. I was wondering why you guys didn't have anything to say. I'm like, come on.
Oh, I have a lot to say.
All right.
Very interesting. It was very interesting.
I have a question. This is just listening.
Well, we're going to adjourn. I can talk to you in 2 seconds because we're done with the meeting. The last thing to do is for me to hit the gavel and we're done.
Hit the gavel.
All right, meeting adjourned.
There you go.